What's up, Rangers Nation, and welcome to Texas Rangers Fanatic Podcast Episode 3. It's Alex Plink from Dallas Sports Fanatic, and today I'm joined by a special guest. Here with me is Coach Matt Lynch. How's it going, Coach?
What's up, Alex? How we doing?
Doing real well. Ready for the season to begin. We got 10 days coming up.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's good to get some sports going again, and let's get back to some normalcy.
Plethora of sports come in. Not only do you have baseball coming up, but you've got hockey, basketball, WNBA, MLS is going. If I forget one, I'm sorry, but everything's starting up hopefully at the end of the month. I know things can be a little, you don't know what's going to happen, but it's good to see a lot of things going on schedule.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that like March was the last time you were able to turn on your TV and watch some type of sport. And so I think I know the nation's ready for it.
Definitely. And for those of you that don't know, Matt Lynch was a former assistant coach for the past couple seasons with the University of North Carolina Wilmington Seahawks men's basketball team. Was also the director of men's basketball operations for Youngstown State University for a couple of seasons. And you even got to coach your college alma mater, correct?
Yeah, I was spent some time at Edinboro University, which is where I graduated from, and then also at Miami, Ohio, in Oxford, Ohio. I was on the women's side there and coached there and got my master's degree from Miami. So that was a great experience as well.
Miami, Ohio Redhawks.
That's right.
I actually remember there. A lot of people get that confused with the U. It ain't the U, trust me.
No, it's and they get very particular about that. I mean, Miami University, Ohio was a university when Miami, Florida was still owned by Spain, and they'll be quick to tell you that. So you got to know which one was the first Miami.
Just like when you go to Denton, Texas for the University of North Texas, don't ever call them the UNT Eagles. They will be really mad.
All right. See, I haven't spent a lot of time in Texas, so this is good information for me.
And there's a couple of reasons why I brought Coach Lynch on here. One of the first things is that for those that don't know, back in March, Matt Lynch was one of the guys that came out as a gay man. He was one of the first gay NCAA coaches on the men's side. And it was interesting because it came right around the pandemic. And I heard that in Washington, D.C., because you were there for the Colonial Athletic Conference tournament. And It was in Washington, D.C., where was that referee tested positive?
Yeah, so we played in the first round of the CAA tournament. And on a Saturday, one of the officials that was officiating our game tested positive for the coronavirus on the following Monday. And so 2 days later, and so on Tuesday, we got a phone call from our athletic director, and we had to self-quarantine in our homes for 14 days. And it was a real interesting situation. I mean, this was back when the pandemic wasn't even what it is now. And so at the time, it even seemed like a little bit of overkill. And we had, university officials calling us every day, getting our temperatures and if we had any symptoms and whatnot. And luckily, I'm fine, and everyone within our program was fine. But yeah, it was a crazy situation.
Did you get ordered to take a test? Did the entire team?
So back during that time, they didn't have the test even that they have now. And so it was so new. And, it was at the point where they were still saying, hey, if you have symptoms, just stay home for 14 days and quarantine. And so, that's what we did.
I think it's real interesting because on the side just recently, for those that know, Joey Gallo just played his first baseball game in summer camp yesterday, where he was in isolation for 10 days because he needed a couple of negative tests. And there was a little bit of controversy that came with that because there were two types of tests. You have the nasal test and you have the saliva test, testing positive twice with the nasal. Testing negative twice with the nasal testing saliva twice. It was positive. Don't know how the fifth test went, what method it was. But it was interesting because he got asked the question, do you feel like you had the coronavirus? He was completely asymptomatic. Before the test came out positive, he was with family. They tested. They came out negative. And he's like, I don't know. I don't know. They did an antibody test where they prick your finger. That came out, but that's not always accurate. I'm not sure if he did the actual needle in the arm antibody test, but I think it's amazing to look at and see somebody who, tests positive twice, have absolutely no symptoms. It's a 50-50 shot, which doesn't seem all of that reliable and makes you wonder how many tests that are taken are actually positive, actually negative.
Yeah, I mean, I just still feel like there's so many unknowns. And so, working through that, it's just, you really don't know what to think, what to believe. It's an interesting time, and it almost doesn't even seem real.
And as you released your story out, and it's on outsports.com, after we get done, I'll go ahead and put it on Twitter. It's a great story, and basically the whole motto, I may say that wrong, but the whole motto it is, you don't want to die with a lie. And basically it is, you don't want to die knowing that you kept this secret inside, that you are a gay man. And I think that's, anybody feels that same way. You keep so much in. I know your story and my story are totally different, but it can combine with the same feelings, I would think, as far as every day you wake up and you have this little weight on your shoulder. And
Yeah. When I was going through it, it's been a little interesting because the title, with the article, it's been kind of the original meaning has been switched around a little bit. And so, it was kind of taken like people took it as, I don't want to die. And when I originally said with that is just like, my plan my entire life was to die with the lie. It was to take that part of me, to the grave and just keep that part quiet. And so I think part of this was due to the coronavirus. It kind of caught a little bit of fire just with these terminologies of, like, some people have asked, like, did you have symptoms from coronavirus? Did you think you were going to die? Like, none of that is where any of this was coming from. It was coming from a point of, like, it was past due time to share my story and to start to try and, be more authentic and grow from it.
people twisting your words, that's new.
I know. How about that?
But I think it's fantastic. It kind of gave me the sort of premise to think about, because I think for me, it was something that I kind of wanted to do, but I've always been the type of person that, I'll be honest, cares what people think. Now, I've been working on that. And
Yep.
I've been working on being like, especially in this industry, I mean, you're going to get critiqued for sneezing the wrong way. Or if you spell a word like whatever kind of word, using a phrase that people will get upset for no reason. But
Yeah.
it's interesting because a couple days leading up, and I've had some great advice from others too. You know who you are. Thank you so much. And ultimately, it's to the point where enough is enough. You just have to I guess the best way, you just have to let the bird fly, let its wings fly, and see if it does fly. And if it falls, it falls. If it flies, flies, it flies.
Right. I mean, with all this, it's a marathon and not a sprint. And, you have to go through your own journey and the process in your own time. And for some people, it's quick, fast, and in a hurry. And then other people, it took me 29 years. I mean, I talked to one of my buddies about it, and it was 10,699 days before I was able to like say it publicly. And so it's everybody has their own path, and that's kind of, I'm happy to see that among all this turmoil that 2020 has brought, both you and myself have been able to come to the point in our lives that we can live our true selves.
And so has really anything, now that it's been about 4 months, has there in your everyday life, has there been any major, I guess, changes? Like, I know probably your main brethren know already, they do well before, but has there been really any major changes?
Outside of, me just kind of piecing my own life back together, and kind of figuring out who I am as a person, and what, who is actually me, and what are things I did as a defense mechanism. I've kind of gone through that. My Instagram followers have increased, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but that's been entertaining to say the least. And I've been able to meet, yourself included, a bunch of great people, and that's probably been the best part, is getting to know other people, hearing other people's stories, and kind of just continuing to realize how small the world really is.
I think it makes it even amazing with the social media aspect that we're in, because even though 10 years ago, if you're looking at, well, let's even go further back, because you and I are like a year apart. And I find that because you're 29, I'm 28. I actually turned 29 next month.
Okay. Yeah, we're right there.
But
90s babies.
90s,
Right.
and the true 90s, not like 98, 99
Right,
stuff.
right.
But I think nowadays, with how big social media is, it can work for and against you. And I think for the both of us, it's worked for more so than it has worked against.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, looking back at everything, it's easy to be a post-game coach and analyze the game after the game. But I really don't think I would change anything. I would probably do it exactly the same way I did it. How about you?
Same thing. I mean, everybody, I will say, lots in the Rangers family have been very supportive. I thank you guys for it. And even people outside the Rangers organization, just friends, family, even people I don't know, the
Yep.
support that they give. And I don't know if it's just because they like the work I put in, or if maybe they're fascinated that a gay man's covering the game of baseball. But whatever it is, and for me personally, I'm the kind of person where, I tell everybody who I am, and just a no reaction, or just a treat me the same way they did before I did, is good enough for me.
Right.
So, I
No,
mean,
it's great that the times are changing, and so it's great to be a part of that change. It's great to be an advocate for the change, and and it's definitely, sports is different. And so, have you been involved without sports at all?
I do talk on occasion. They have their meetings on Fridays that I attend to,
Okay.
and they do post those on Twitter. If you don't follow them, and I've met some really good people, really cool people, some vast people across not just the United States but throughout the entire world.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a great outlet.
Yeah.
Such great people to be
For
around.
sure. That's I'm so thrilled with my decision to kind of do the article through them, and get to know, like you were saying, I worked mainly with Jim Basinski. He's one of their co-founders and an primary editor for them, and they do great work, and especially for the LGBTQ community in sports. They help give messages of hope, which I'm sure you can relate to too, that at times in coming up in my life, those messages were the most important thing. So
Definitely. And I think, just the normalcy coming in, because just like for you and me, I mean, for me, it's my whole thing is that, for instance, put out something out today and somebody reads it. I think what we're looking for is we're just looking to be treated equally, as that we're not a part, you want to be a part of the community, but as just individuals, just as individuals. So like for your coaching perspective, if as a coach, a player doesn't maybe like your technique or tendency, they can have opinions, but they have to be backed up without any, I guess, LGBTQ discrimination. There's probably a
Yeah.
way better word to put that. Um, and then for me, like, I put out an opinion, and my whole thing is this is what I ride with, is that I take more fascination if somebody doesn't agree with my opinion, because let's say I think I put out something out today. I think Ronald Guzman of the Rangers has he's in a particular dicey situation. They say, well, that's wrong because of the success he had a couple years ago. He's out of that sophomore slump. I'd be like, yeah, you know what? I get that. I would say, no, I don't agree with your opinion because you're gay. I'm like, okay, I'm not even
Yeah.
going to. So I think hopefully we'll reach that point where those types of ideologies fade away.
Right. Yeah. It's your business is different than mine, and yours is so much like, as you're writing, like that stuff is so easily critiqued, where I'm kind of behind the scenes with everything I'm doing. And so, the only people that I'm interacting with on a day-to-day basis are, my players. And I built that relationship with them to the point that they know me, I know them, and we kind of both know where each other stands, where you're creating something and putting it right out into the world due to your line of work. And you're definitely up for critiquing immediately.
You're the type of coaches that we critique.
Yeah. Right.
I'm sure you've had
Well,
your run-in with media too over the past.
yeah. Yeah. You definitely, I'd love to tell you I've had a ton of experience, but my career is, I'm still climbing the ladder. So, the head coach and, other people are in the interviews and, getting the sound bites and all that, which is fine by me. They can have all of it. But, my opinion is kind of been asked these last few months because of the article and things of that nature. But, I've been lucky so far, and everybody's been pretty nice to me, and I appreciate it.
Same here. Appreciate everybody who has been absolutely fantastic and supportive. And so there's another reason I brought you on, Matt, because we are rare into the terms of opening day. And the one thing is you have players who are trying to make the team. And I kind of
Yep.
wanted to get a coach's perspective on this, because especially now with limitation, fans don't get to see the coach-player interactions.
Yep.
And even beforehand, they don't really get to see that. You see coaches talking to players, but you don't know how those conversations go. And coaches aren't always. I'll be honest. They're not always truthful to what is being said in interviews. So I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on a couple of things.
Okay.
Uh,
Shoot.
a lot of people looked at yesterday's. I don't know if they saw the video that I put out. I was lucky enough to get that. The Rangers catcher Robinson Chirinos suffered a ankle injury. Now, according to Chris Woodward today, it's not or at least Chirinos woke up feeling a lot better than he thought he was. So hopefully this is just a day-to-day thing. Basically, the play, if you haven't seen it, is Scott Heineman's busting it down the line on a forced play. First baseman Todd Frazier throws it to the plate, and it looks like Chirinos' foot was on there a little bit longer than he wanted to, and Heineman slid right into Chirinos, rolling his ankle. Now, the interesting thing here is that Chirinos is a veteran catcher. He's on a second stint with the Rangers. He's been in the league for about 8 years. Heineman is trying to make the team, and he's been in the league for a couple months. Let me ask you this. We're going to focus a little bit on Scott Heineman, because it's got to be a tough feeling for a young player to inadvertently, completely accidental, hurt your veteran catcher. So if you're a coach and you're seeing your young player distraught a little bit, I don't know how the feelings are. Woody said earlier today that Heineman went immediately to Chiritos. Everything's all good. But what are you telling a young player like Heineman when a play like that happens? Are you giving him a sense of encouragement, or what do you?
There's so many dynamics I think that go into play that you could analyze, and so I'll kind of attack this thing from all sides. I'd probably start just by saying that injuries are a part of the game, no matter what sport you're playing. You need to, at any time, you need to be ready to account for injuries, and that's just a part of sports. Um, I would say that it's important to know, for me to answer this question, it's important to know, what is the quote unquote ground rules going into this thing, because that younger player trying to make a name, trying to make the team, the rookie is like, he's trying to showcase his skills and he's going, balls to the wall, where the veteran is not. And so is this a situation where, there was there conversations beforehand of, should don't like I'll give you I'll take it back to basketball because that's what I know. If I bring in a couple practice players to who are not on my roster, but they're there to practice with the team, like the number one thing I'm saying, the very first thing I'm saying is, do not injure any of our players. And so if there's a breakaway layup, so to speak, or something along those lines, you just let that player go. And so with a young player like that, I did see the video clip and from there, I would say that it obviously it doesn't look like he did anything malicious. It looks like it was an accident, and injuries are a part of the game. And, it's somewhat of a long season. A sprain can heal. And I would just try and get him to keep everything into perspective.
Well, and the thing is that a lot of people are saying, well, why are you sliding like that? Why are you busting it down there? And people are saying, well, there shouldn't be any contact. But one thing people don't realize is that these young players are trying to make a good impression on their team, on Woody and the coaches. And so if you're watching it and he's not busting it down the line, he's jogging down the line, Heineman is, what are you going to make out of that?
Oh yeah, you're going to be quick to analyze him and, oh, he's soft, he's this, he's not hustling, he's not doing that. And that's why it's important as a spectator that to realize that you don't know everything that's going on there. And so this is the major leagues. Like, they've had a conversation of like, we're here to win, we're here to play hard. If you're stealing a base, if you're sliding, you're that's what we're doing, and we'll roll the dice and we'll let the chips fall as they may. That I think that it's kind of I don't know a ton about the Texas Rangers and their their program and how they want to do things, but I'm a guy that believes competition breeds competition. And, you have to, as I'm sure they have, you have to account for injuries. That's part of sports.
Well, you just paraphrased one of Chris Woodward's quotes from last year, so you sure could have fooled me.
Yeah.
It's more so universal alongside, I would think, from franchise to franchise, team to team. One other thing I kind of want to, because you've got veterans and rookies, how do those conversations kind of go just from a player to coach perspective? Do you coach them differently, or is it just based on personality?
Yeah, I would say that, when we're talking, a professional sport versus a college sport, there's a lot of differences. And so on the college level, a a player-led team is always going to be more successful than a coach-led team. And that's that key word, the hot word that every coach in the country wants to throw out there is culture. And that would be a result of a good culture. But from that, those usually what you have is where you're saying rookies and veterans. I'm calling them freshmen versus seniors, and freshmen come in and they were the best player from their hometown. They're all 1,000-point scorers. They all know everything. They're good to go. And the veterans, they understand what it takes to go through a college basketball season in which, being in shape, what being in shape really means, eating right, getting enough sleep, how to prioritize your schedule, to the grueling, weight room workouts, to conditioning, to all of the practices and the games and whatnot. And so usually those veterans or seniors, they have the advantage of experience, and there is no way to shortcut experience. Experience is gained through time and work, and there's no way to get around those things. And so I think that it's just you can definitely have special talents that come through and they break the mold. If you have a LeBron James or a Kevin Durant as a freshman, a Zion, sure, yeah, those guys are going to be good to go. But that is not where the landscape of college basketball is, and with all of the different rules and bylaws being talked about now, it could be even soon that those high school prospects are going right to the G League. And so you want another little slogan for you in college basketball is you want to get old and you want to stay old. And that's your veterans, that's your seniors, that's your upperclassmen, and that's ultimately over a season, that's who you see winning.
There's one other thing I wanted to kind of go over, and that's, and I'll use a basketball example too. So if you have a player who's got good form and it looks like his technique is great, and he makes, and everything looks good, but the shots aren't falling, sort of similar for if a player is having a good at bat, he's making great contact, but it's just not finding a hole. And with Chris Woodward, the more thing is the results, not so much on paper, but as far as the swing. How do you address that with a player? Do you give them a sign of encouragement, or because they've got to be frustrated if they're doing everything right and the results aren't there? It's got to be a frustrating feeling.
Yeah, it's a case by case basis. And so one of the best basketball coaches to ever live, John Wooden, he says every player needs a smack on the ass. Some need it just a little bit harder. And I think that's just it's a relationship. Sports, whether it's tennis, golf, football, baseball, basketball, it's relationships at its core. And you have to have that relationship. You definitely can put the time in. Everybody, what a lot of people don't understand in sports is, like, everybody works hard. Everybody puts the time in. Like, working hard gets you to the door. It's and what it really comes down to, especially for us, is production. What do you do when the lights are on? The bleachers spend all day in the gym, but they don't get any better. So just because you're in there, that doesn't mean that that you're gonna get this, or you're gonna earn that, or you deserve anything. You definitely get what you earn, but you have to produce when the lights are on. And so I would just say you have to know that player. You have to have a relationship with that player, and you have to know what buttons to push and how. And it's relationships, just like experience, you can only gain them through time and trust. And there's no shortcuts there either.
Speaking of when the lights are on during game day environments, how do you think it would field out with college basketball? They're obviously, I would highly doubt that they're even going to play at the end of this year. They may have to push everything back further, but for any sports, because as far as going to a sporting event or hearing it on TV with no fans, pre-recorded crowd noise, what's your take on that?
I'm not necessarily for the pre-recorded crowd noise or anything like that. Especially at the college level, I think that's an opportunity, and to the outside world, it'll sound really strange, but college teams, we're in there practicing all day long without anybody. And we get we call them the secret scrimmages, and Jeff Goodman goes and tweets them all out or whatever. But within these, you go scrimmage these teams, and it's on your bench, it's on your team, it's on your brothers to create energy. And it would be a unique challenge, but I think we would adapt. And I can definitely see that maybe the NBA or the MLB or the NFL, they might have the production quality and the staff and everything to pull something like a crowd noise off and not make it too corny or cheesy or whatever. But at the college level, I say, hey, me and mine versus you and yours, and let's see what we can do.
Tell you, it was real weird listening to that yesterday. I was there at the park. It was very strange. So we'll
realistic?
See. It sounded realistic, and then when you look up and all the seats are empty, right. And then of course during the Chirinos injury, you can faintly hear the background because you've got the AC running. Thank God. You can hear the crowd noise slowly going down because you have cheering, and then you have Chirinos getting hurt. So you're gonna have to like tone that down. So
right.
But on to the Rangers. I believe that's being handled by Michael Gruber and his crew along with Chuck Morgan. So, but they're a fantastic bunch. So I'm sure if anyone's gonna have fun with it, it's the Ranger sound system. But I really appreciate it, Coach Matt Lynch. For those of you that want to follow him on Twitter, you can follow him at Lynch5, as well as Instagram. It's the same handle, right?
Right. Lynch5 _ at the end.
Underscore. Make sure you have that underscore in there. And then if you want to follow me on Twitter, it is at aPlinkTX, on Instagram at aPlinkTEX. And for those of you that are wondering, as far as Ranger games go, keep in mind that for Wednesday and Thursday night's game, both those nightly inter-squad games will be streamed on the Rangers Facebook and Twitter page. And then, of course, exhibition games starting next Tuesday, the 21st and the 22nd, will be televised on Fox Sports Southwest, as well as 105.3 The Fan. I want to appreciate again Coach Matt Lynch, and hopefully everything is going well. Enjoy. I see some of your Instagram posts. So Wilmington, North Carolina, a lot of beaches. That's got to be fun.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's I might, I put one up today, and I tagged it as the unemployment office. And I'm out there searching for a job still, but trust me, if you haven't been to Wilmington, if any of the listeners haven't been to Wilmington, I think it's one of the nation's best kept secrets. It's an unbelievable place. And I'm happy to quarantine here and continue to look for my next opportunity. And I don't know where that'll be, but I'll be ready for when the call comes.
Well, and I will say this, Ranger fans, if you are heading to Wilmington, North Carolina, and you want some baseball, just about a little bit, I believe, northwest of Wilmington, about an hour and a half, is Kington, North Carolina, where the Down East Wood Ducks play, a Class A advanced affiliate of the Texas Rangers.
Yep,
so
Kingston, yep. I know right where it's at.
Hey, you can check out some Wood Ducks games. Well, they're not playing this year, but next year, if you're still in the area.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you having me on here, and I've enjoyed getting to know you and building a friendship, and all the best of luck to you going forward.
Absolutely. Coach Matt Lynch, absolutely. And thank you